All right,
Okay.
so Shirley Kim asked us on YouTube, what is the best way to find flats which are room to shares in New Zealand? All right, so flatting is one of the most common way of finding accommodation in New Zealand when you are on a gap year or on a working holiday visa. So flatting, in short, it's your average episode of Friends. You have an apartment with a bunch of friends which are living together and you share all the facilities. So usually you have your own room, but then you share kitchen, you share lounge, you share bathroom and all of those kind of things. This allows you to be able to have kind of your own place which is not a hostel, but without having to pay like the full rent for the apartment or the house. This is very, very common in New Zealand, and even a lot of Kiwis are actually living in flats just because rent can be quite high. But by doing that, you can divide the rent well by the number of people living in. So that's usually 3, 4 or 2. Now, a lot of time, the number one worry that you're going to have is if you're a couple. A lot of places will not ask, we will say we don't accept couples. The reason being is that a couple definitely changes the dynamic of a place very much. So first up, that's, for voting power, you get 2 people that are always going to be voting together. So if it's a flat with only like 2 people, well, then that the person already living here will completely lose the control over the flat, and that may not be comfortable for them. Second, usually couple have very different needs than people which are just on the go traveling single and all of that. So it's quite different vibes and everything. So usually when you pick a flat, you pick it mostly for the vibe. But there are many places to find flats in New Zealand. The flat finding system is super simple just because, well, there is so much option.
Yeah.
And let's go through that.
Okay, so number 1 on our list, because we do have a full list of the different ways to find a flat on BackpackerGuide.NZ, which we will link to in the description below. But the number one thing you can do is to use bulletins. Now, for those people that don't know what a bulletin is, because New Zealand is not really...
What the hell is a bulletin, Laura?
Because New Zealand is a little bit behind the times sometimes, and a bulletin is basically like a magazine or kind of like a newspaper that's distributed in some of the larger towns or cities in New Zealand, particularly in, I'm thinking of Queenstown. There's the Lakes Weekly Bulletin, for instance, which you can find in convenience stores or bottle stores around the town. And this is basically it's basically like a magazine just full of listings for jobs, for flatting, all of that sort of thing. Also any events that are happening in the town as well. So yeah, you can, in some towns you can find bulletins. I think in Wanaka as well they have a bulletin. So make sure that you find out what day they are that bulletin comes out. Usually because, especially in the larger South Island towns like Queenstown and Wanaka, it's very competitive to get a flat. So make sure on the first day, when you know it's out, get it, because they run out so quickly, and basically start contacting people through that straight away.
All right, so next one is obviously all your co-workers and your friends around the town. So usually what happens is that you are picking a town that you kind of feel like, it's going to be giving you good travel options and everything like that. And then you stay in a hostel or backpacker, or some people stay in hotel, but you've got to have the budget for that.
Yeah.
And then you start looking for jobs. Then you find a job and you kind of like, okay, well, I've been I have a job now. I've been in a hostel for about a month. I kind of want to find my own place now. And so usually the good way to find, another really good way to find a flat would be to ask your coworkers and the friends that you made here, and to know if there is someone that's looking for a flatmate. That's very common. Kiwis are extremely kind of unreliable, but in the fun sense, they change their mind quite often. So basically it's kind of like, I'm going to live here for a wee while, but after 6 months they're already moving on somewhere. It's not like they don't really stand still for 10 years. So they're really very much against routine. That's what I want to say about unreliable. Things move around really quickly. So asking your friend and coworker for if they know anyone that needs a flatmate is very, very easy one.
Yeah, another way to find flats is through Facebook groups. So around New Zealand, there are usually Facebook groups for every town. You know, those buy and sell groups, I'm sure that they're probably in your country as well. Like you have the town name, buy and sell. Usually on these sort of Facebook groups, or whether it's any other name like a town community group or something, people will post if they have spare rooms for rent on there as well. Again, that's an easy method. All you need is an internet connection, a phone, and just make sure that you contact people as soon as possible so that you get a chance to get there before others do. But also make sure that you do go around to visit the flat first before you actually say yes.
Okay, next one, and I am actually not joking, it still exists. It's the supermarket boards. So yes, New Zealand still have those. Those are a small part of the wall, usually right after the cash register, where people can take a little piece of cardboard and write like, oh, I'm selling a couple of sheep, and then put them on the board, and then people can just call them. Well, New Zealand still have that in 2019. No joke. So this still exists, and I'm not joking, but you can use those, and quite often they put flatmate stuff. So if you go shopping, just look at the board and just see if there's one. And if you're really desperate, you can write down like, I'm looking for a flat, contact me, and just put it on there. But that still exists.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm talking about.
And they're used quite a lot.
I know, I'm
all
just
of them are pretty
shocked.
full.
It's crazy. Every single time you go to the supermarket, I actually stop by it because I'm just in awe. I'm like, oh wow, someone is selling a bike on a board in the supermarket. That happening.
That's classic, classic Kiwi charm. That is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm just in shock because I'm not mocking right now. I'm just like, really, that still exists, but it's just fun.
Yeah. Anyway, another sort of archaic way of finding a job in New Zealand, so not a job, a flat in New Zealand, is through newspapers.
Does it still exist as well?
Yeah, newspapers still exist in New Zealand. I actually think they do still exist elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of local newspapers in New Zealand for local towns, and they will have the classified ads in the back for, again, for jobs, for, garage sales, that sort of thing, and also for rooms to rent. So that's always good to get a newspaper. Most of the time they're free to buy, but sometimes you might have to pay a little bit to get a newspaper.
So if they're free, don't buy them.
Yeah, sorry. Free to pick up from wherever you may see them.
Well, it is 8:35 in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, and Laura is already drunk. All right, the next one is roommates website. So there are a few websites for you to find a flat. And the number one is Trade Me. It's kind of like the Craigslist of New Zealand. So it's
the eBay.
Yeah, the eBay. And there is a lot of little kind of offering. And so there is Flatmate in there as well. So you can just browse that. There is also NZ Flatmate and Easy Roommate. I know Easy Roommate sounds like a really dodgy website name, but it is something to find easily, a roommate or a flatmate. So those are. They don't necessarily work as well as the other method from our personal experience, but there are some decent options if you kind of want to cover every single ground that you can have.
Of course, it's best to use a combination of all those things rather than just one and hoping that is going to be the way to go. But it's usually to find a flat as quickly as possible, use a combination of those things.